What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Um, Today we're gonna talk about cunning criminals that got away with it. Yes, I had to think about that for a second because I'm also trying to share the stream out. Um, we got some criminals that have been caught and some criminals that have not been caught on today's stream. There is a goal. It goes for 3 hours. That if you want to tell us what, uh, so like it's literally like $2 or higher, and you get to direct the stream. So that shall be fun. Um, so one of my people is not in here yet. That's fine. It's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock their time. It's all good. But one of the first serial killers that I found that did uh that basically got away with it. What's up, Dorian? How you doing, sweetheart? Um is the Axemen of New Orleans. So we're gonna break it down into the basics of the background of it. I'm not really going to go into the victims, but on this one, I kind of have to because of the simple fact that what he did was ruthless. Um, it's going pretty good, Dorian. How are you? But so let's talk about the Axemen in New Orleans. Um, that's good. The Axeman of New Orleans is it basically um he killed people with their own axes. Um the victims were attacked with an axe, which often belonged to the victims themselves. In most cases, on a panel on the back door of the home was removed by a chisel, which, along with the panel, was left on the floor near the door. So basically, he broke into the house. What's up, Mike? Yes, today we are talking about, right now I'm talking about the Axemen in New Orleans. Um, he, the killer never was like caught. So that's basically what we're talking about today is serial killers that have and have not been caught. Um, he, the Axemen of New Orleans, uh, victims were Italian immigrants or Italian Americans, leading many to believe that the crimes were ethnically motivated. Many media outlets sens- uh, sens- sensationalized. Fuck, I can't talk. Same old, always. You know how it is. You know I love my murders. But they sensationalized this aspect of the crime, even suggesting mafia involvement despite lack of evidence. Of course, they would assume it was the mafia. Some analysts have suggested that the killer were sexually motivated, and that the unalivers was perhaps a sadist, because they mainly targeted female victims. Criminologists hypothesized that The Axeman killed male victims only when they obstructed his attempt to murder women. Oh, BuzzFeed did this. All right. Let's throw this over here. Okay. Actually. Here we go. Okay, so we will watch that real quick. Oh, they solved it? Sweet. That's what I was trying to get to. Sorry, I'm not as fast as they are about it, and I say a lot. But yeah, a lot of the killings was done at night, which makes them think, totally different. You can't see me, but that's okay. I'm still down there. Think you can see me better here. Yeah, you can. All right, so we'll just leave it this way. On YouTube, see, I'm pretty damn fast. Yeah, you are. I'm not as fast, but I do find this stuff interesting. That's why I like watching it. Now, if I can remember what buttons were which, I would be doing great. They should make serial killer baseball cards, okay? They should. I don't care who you are. They should make serial killer baseball cards. Collect them all.
If they did, you'd probably own them.
You would own them.
No, I think you would own them too.
I would own them. I fucking would. I would be out there owning every single damn one of them.
I'll trade you a Gacy for a...
I did want to do John Wayne Gacy. I learned a lot about John Wayne Gacy, but at that point in time, I was having seizures, and I didn't have the protector on my computer screen. So every time I was looking at my computer screen for a long time, I would have a seizure. So thanks to medication, I don't have as many seizures, and I now have the screen protector on my computer screen, so I can actually go back and do John Wayne Gacy. That was a criminal that was actually very interested in me.
You're doing Gacy for a Zodiac.
Yeah.
The Axeman eerily never
Zodiac is another killer that was never caught.
used his
That's kind of weird because if you also remember, okay, so let's break this down. So the Axeman of so basically he would always bring his own axe, right? Or he would always use people's axes. He never brought his own shit. But if you remember the Velisca axe murders, the axe was there. There was a couple other murders where the axes were there. They were never brought with them. They were always there. And that was in the same time period. They did throw the axe away because they never brought their own axe. Literally, think about the technology back then and the technology nowadays. It's completely different. So there wasn't shit for fingerprinting. You literally just dust, they didn't have all the technology nowadays. So if you left a fucking axe at the murder scene, there wasn't fingerprints or anything like that. Okay, we'll check that in a second.
Boy, does not
Axeman and Razor Boy?
Axeman, I think, strikes a little bit more fear into my heart than Razor Boy.
Lock your door.
Axeman does strike more fear. I have to agree. Razor Boy, I mean...
Where's Razor Boy's out tonight?
Catherine had been almost entirely decapitated.
Yeah, 9 chances out of 10 he used the axe for that one, but they said it was a straight blade.
And Joseph.
So, let's go into that for a second, because let's talk about it. Okay, so the dude was delivering bread, and they decided that he was the one doing the killing because he was the first one there. And it's still the same thing today. If you're the first person that ever like steps in the ground, you know, you find a dead body, they're more likely to make it so you're uno number one on the suspect list. It's and being a delivery driver or whatever, you're more likely to be on the suspect list because you go from house to house to house to house.
He opened
Hey,
the
he was-
door.
They also did bring up a good point that fingerprinting was just developed at that point in time, and it was not a standard procedure. So they didn't dust for fingerprints. So he did. Okay, so he murdered the first two completely. He left the second set alive, and the third one survived the attack. So, is it he wanted them to know who it was, or is it that he just got weaker as time went on? So that is he going? This killer makes no sense because first it was a couple, second it was a couple, then it was only a wife, and then it was a elderly man. So is he just trying to keep it fucking equal numbers?
Which killer are you talking about?
The New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, that killer was definitely stroking himself. What's up, Angie? She must be having a conversation. But yeah, that guy has got to be stroking himself. Okay, so I guess it's been solved. So let's.
Between May 1918 and October 1919, New Orleans was in a frenzied panic about a roaming serial killer. So much so that the killer was able to scare everyone in the city into playing jazz music in their homes, bars, and dance halls to save themselves from the wrath of the Axeman of New Orleans. Over 100 years later, we still have no idea who the Axeman was, what he wanted, or why he
What's
almost
up,
exclusively
SJ?
targeted Italian-American grocers. However, there is a theory that the Axeman
I'm torturing Anna.
Why?
Okay, so she was looking at the channel thing with Brittany J, right?
Right.
And whoever it is, I think it might be Queen, is playing Fat by Weird Al. And she was telling me that they're doing it for like Brittany J or whatever. And she's like, yeah, you know, now every time I hear the song, I keep thinking about her. I said, oh, really? Now picture her in a bikini. And it's like, why would you do that? I said, and I'll tell you once again who's fat. And I went the door.
might have actually been a mafia hitman. If you like unsolved mysteries, that's all I do on this
I
channel.
don't even
So
know
please
the chick like that. But except for the pictures and shit she showed me. You know the girl got like a Nazi symbol thing on her window?
No, I did not.
Yeah. I don't know if she knows, but yeah.
I fast forwarded a little bit through this so that way we could see what's
read
up.
quote, Mrs. Maggio is going to sit up tonight, just like Mrs. Tony. This message on the sidewalk is theorized to be a reference to Anthony and Johanna Siambra, or Mrs. Tony, as she was often referred to. Police then found the bloody clothes of the murderer in the apartment. Apparently, he changed into a clean set of clothes before fleeing the scene. And then for some reason, a complete search of the premises was not performed after the bodies were removed, but they ruled out robbery as a motive, because all the money and valuables out in plain sight were not stolen by the Axeman. But the bloodstained razor, used as the murder weapon, was later found on the lawn of a neighboring property. The razor was found to belong to Joseph Maggio's own brother Andrew, who worked at a barbershop on Camp Street. His employee, Esteban Torres, told police that Andrew removed the razor from the shop 2 days prior to the murder because he wanted to have a nick honed from the blade. Now, Andrew lived in the adjoining apartment to his brother and told police that he only heard groaning through the wall on the night of the murders and blamed his failure to hear any noise related to the attack itself on his intoxicated.
What? Is it too fast?
Hold on, I gotta pause it. I gotta mute me.
Okay. Is it too fast, chat?
Condition. Even though he was pissed out of his mind,
What's
the police
up,
were surprised
SJ?
they failed to hear the intruder's forced entry into the home, and so Andrew Maggio became the police's prime suspect in his brother's own murder, but was released after investigators were unable to break down his statement, as well as his account of an unknown man who was supposedly seen lurking near the apartment prior to the murders. Then about a month later, during the early morning hours of June 27, 1918, grocers Louis Bessemer and his mistress Harriet Lowe were attacked in their private quarters at the back of the Bessemer's grocery store. Bessemer was struck with a hatchet above his right temple, which resulted in a skull fracture. Lowe was hacked over the left ear and left with one side of her face permanently paralyzed. The couple were discovered the following morning, alive, but critically injured, by a bakery wagon driver named John Zanker, who came to the grocery to make a routine delivery. The hatchet used in the attack, which had belonged to Bessemer himself, was found in an adjacent bathroom. Bessemer told investigators that he had been sleeping while he was attacked. In classic police fashion, they immediately arrested Louis Obicon, a 41-year-old African-American man who had
Oh, I don't understand why the police were so stupid back then. Honestly, I don't. Because literally, if you're gonna fucking murder people, you're not gonna fucking report it the next fucking day. I don't know if that's too fast for you guys. Let me fucking slow it down.
Man, you should see what I learned. Oh shit, I'm a little. You should see what I learned on the 3 serial killers that was in Philly around the same time.
Okay, let me finish this one and then we'll go on to them. Did you put any information or links that I can pull?
I could probably find it because I do have my YouTube open.
Okay.
been
That's
employed
how
in the
I'm reading the chat is through my YouTube.
Yeah.
grocery just a week before the attack. No evidence existed which could have proved Obicon was guilty, but they arrested him anyway, stating that he had offered conflicting accounts of his whereabouts on the morning of the attacks. Obicon was later released, however, because police were unable to gather sufficient evidence to hold him. Harriet Lowe recalled her assailant having been a mulatto man, meaning he had mixed African and European ancestry, yet her statement was discounted by police due to her disorientated state. This time,
Okay, so that's the thing. The first 2 couples, it was a white man. The second, like the rest of them, said that it was black or mulatto. So, I mean, if it's nighttime and you're asleep in bed and you wake up and it's dark, you're
not seeing shit.
You're not seeing shit.
police said that robbery was the only possible explanation for the attacks, despite the fact that just like in the previous attack, no money or valuables were taken. After this,
Really,
Harriet Lowe
though?
became the
That's fair,
center of the
Froggy.
media circus as she continually
Changed my
made
name.
scandalous and
What?
I said, that's better. I changed my name on your thing.
Okay.
I had to add the 420 because just Unicorn Gamer was taken.
Right. There was like
So-
50 of them, so
420 because now I could say, light them up, pop past that shit to the left, and let's go.
hell yeah.
often false statements relating to both the attack and the character of Louis Bessemer. After Bessemer fell under suspicion of espionage because of the discovery of foreign written letters in his possession, Harriet Lowe told police that she thought he was a German spy, resulting in his immediate arrest. He would also be released 2 days later.
No. Okay, so before this goes any further, they say that 90% of the unalivings were people of the Italian ethnicity. Yeah.
Italian.
They were
Italian.
basically Italian Americans. But now they're saying that it was a white man and a mulatto man, and they can't keep their story straight. Every freaking weapon was brought to them
Well,
by
what time period was this?
1918.
Back then, Italians were considered kind of.
Oh, I understand. But what I'm saying is, he never brought his own weapon. He only used what was available at the houses.
But I mean, by that recollection, though, those 2 statements are one and the same.
Right. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. If it's nighttime and it's dark, you're not going to see who's fucking hitting you with a goddamn axe or razor blade?
I don't fucking know.
Right. That's the thing. You're not. It's a fucking razor blade. Nobody's really gonna see that shit. Or a razor blade, they're not gonna see who's doing it. An axe, they're not gonna see who's doing it. They're gonna try and fight the shit off. If that makes sense.
because of a lack of evidence. Then later in August 1918, Bessemer was arrested again after Lowe, who was now on her deathbed following failed surgery, named him as the killer. Bessemer was charged with murder and served 9 months in prison before finally being acquitted on May 1st, 1919, after just a 10-minute jury deliberation. Yeah, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that the chances that Bessemer would headbutt a hatchet to cover his tracks are almost zero. Then during the early morning hours of August 5th, 1918, 28-year-old Anna Schneider, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, woke up to find a dark figure standing over her, and she was bashed in the face repeatedly. Her scalp was cut open, and her face was covered in blood. But Anna was discovered alive after midnight by her husband, Ed Schneider, as he returned home late from work. And fortunately, she still gave birth to a healthy baby girl 2 days later. Anna would say that the last thing she remembered was an
So they arrested Ed Schneider, and then they couldn't find any evidence on him. They acquitted him, and all of a sudden his wife's like fucking cut it up. That's fucking crazy.
axe descending down onto her head. And Ed would tell police that nothing was stolen from their home, besides about $6 or $7 that had been inside his wallet. Police noted that the windows and doors of the couple's apartment
where it's unsolved, they have the person, they just can't pin it on them.
Well, once again, as they stated in the previous video, at this point in time in the timeline, fingerprints was just being recognized as a useful information to sort out criminals, but it had not been through the process of where, like, police could actually use it as evidence. And there was no DNA testing back then.
didn't appear to be forced open, and they came to the conclusion that Anna was most likely attacked with a lamp that had been on a nearby table. This led them to publicly speculate that the attack was related to the previous Bessemer Maggiore incidents, because the killer, using his victims' objects as murder weapons, was a big part of his MO. However, the one thing that didn't add up is the attack on Schneider represented a slight change in the Axeman's preferred targets. She was neither Italian nor a grocer. Therefore, it now seemed as if anyone in the city was fair game. And
I think that one was a copycat. I don't think that was the original one. I think that was a copycat.
New Orleans really started to fear that some kind of boogeyman was on the loose in their city, and the Axeman didn't wait long to strike again. Just 5 days later, on August 10th, 1918, Pauline and Mary Bruno woke up to the sound of a commotion in the adjoining room where their elderly uncle, an Italian grocer, Joseph Romano, lived. They rushed into the room and discovered that Romano had taken a serious blow to.
I'll be right back.
Was it? Yeah, Joseph Romano was the one that they said was the victim or the killer. Now he got attacked.
To his head, which resulted in 2 massive cuts. The killer was in the middle of fleeing the scene as they arrived, yet the girls were able to distinguish that he was a dark-skinned, heavy-set man who wore a dark suit and a slouched hat.
What is a slouched hat? We're gonna look this up real quick.
I'm thinking it's one of them newsboys' hats.
I can't type.
Hold on. Ooh, I got a little headache.
Okay, so this is what a slouched hat looks like. I don't know if you can see here. I'll share it with you. This is what a basically an old cowboy hat is what a fucking slouched hat is. That's what a fucking slouched hat is. That's what they used to.
Hold on. I have to wait for this shit to. Oh, the guy I know hats used to wear one of those.
Yeah, it's a cloth hat, a wide brim.
No, man, that shit's more like country or Australian.
Hold on. We're gonna hold on.
It's like country mid Australia. That sounds like it shouldn't go together, but I have it. Like the typical old, like Australian, like think crocodile hunter hat mixed in with like a cowboy hat type thing. Like they had a baby. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. I will say,
Okay. Do I get to be a serial killer now?
well, it's time to move and I'll tell you where the fuck I'm going.
Do I get to be a serial killer now?
Damn, I thought we were gonna be friends.
Well, we both like. Well,
Oh no,
I
actually yours is a country hat. The one you were showing is more like I said, Australian.
right. I don't have one of them. All I have is like literally fucking.
It's like a cowboy hat and an Australian hat, like kind of like the hat you had on. Mix them like Crocodile Dundee hat.
Oh
Mix
yeah.
them like they had a baby.
Yeah.
And there you go, a slouch hat.
I just figured I'd get to be a serial killer today too.
No,
Why not?
because I said so.
Fuck.
And that needs to work with at least one person today, or my self esteem is gonna crash.
Well, we're not gonna let your self-esteem crash, okay?
Romano was able to walk himself to the ambulance
Like,
once it arrived,
damn.
yet he died 2 days
Because I
later
said
due to
so.
severe
That works. So he died 2 days later. Most of these victims died like within a couple of days.
head trauma. His home had been ransacked, yet again, no items were stolen. Authorities found a bloody axe in the backyard and discovered that a panel on the back door had been chiseled away.
That's the thing. Most of these back doors were chiseled away. Like,
We have nobody watching.
yeah, we do.
This is the
At least on my side.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, we had one pop in and then pop out. But yeah.
Damn.
All right, let's finish this.
murder that created a state of extreme chaos in New Orleans, with residents living in constant fear of an Axeman attack. Police received a slew of reports in which citizens claimed to have seen the killer lurking in local neighborhoods. A few men even called to report that they had found axes in their backyards. John D'Antonio, a then-retired Italian detective, made public statements in which he hypothesized that the man who
Why do
committed
they
the recent
pronounce it like that? Oh my god.
What?
Italian. It's Italian.
Italian?
Like EH.
I said Italian.
Yeah. But
Because you gotta remember English pronunciates their fucking vowels.
yes, but it sucks.
Right. English and the UK, like America and the UK, we pronunciate our vowels. It's just American pronunciate their vowels more than anything.
murders was the same man who had killed several individuals in 1911, i.e. Joseph Momfrey, and D'Antonio described the potential killer as an individual with dual personalities and killed without motive. He said this type of individual could very likely have been a normal
And I
law-abiding
get
citizen.
that rant, by the way, from my fucking teacher in first grade who taught me, who was teaching Italian in my school. He is like literally Italian born and fucking came over here and now teaches.
Yeah.
And he was teaching a bunch of fucking first graders. But some of the parents would say it the wrong way. They would say the Italian. He fucking one parents' evening. One too many of the goddamn parents did it. This man had a whole meltdown.
Oh, I bet. Well, that's just like a lot of people who mispronounce names. I mean, that's why my daughter goes by Shani and not her biological name, is because one too many people mispronounce it. Just like one too many people mispronounce my name, and by the end of the doctor's appointments, I go freaking berserk because they don't know how to pronunciate my name.
And that's why when I'm fucking thinking I'm gonna mispronounce your name by accident, I will fucking ask you to pronounce your name again. I'm sorry. I need to hear your name like one more
More
time
time. Right.
because I'm bad with names, one, and I need to rehear it because my speech is not always 100%, and words kind of, yeah.
Right. Let's see if they actually figure out who fucking
Was
did this
often
shit.
overcome by an overwhelming desire to kill. He later went on to describe the killer as a real-life Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Then on the night of March 10th, 1919, Italian immigrants and grocers, Charles Cortamiglia and his wife Rosie and his infant daughter Mary, were attacked inside their residence on the corner of Jefferson Avenue and 2nd Street. This was perhaps the Axeman's worst attack yet. Rosie Cortamiglia awoke to the sight of her husband Charles fighting off the Axeman. It was a fight that he would ultimately lose. The Axeman would then turn his attention to Rosie, who was cradling her 2-year-old daughter Mary in her arms. As the axe came down upon them both, it killed the child instantly. After hearing screaming coming from the Cortamiglia residence, grocer Iolando Giordano alerted the police and rushed across the street to investigate. Charles and Rosie had both suffered fractured skulls from blows caused by the axe, which was found on their back porch. Nothing was stolen from their home, but a panel on the back door had again been chiseled away. Charles was released just after 2 days in hospital, while his wife remained in the care of doctors a little longer. Upon gaining full consciousness, Rosie claimed that Giordano and his 18-year-old son Frank were responsible for the attacks. That makes sense. A 69-year-old man in poor health, and his son, who was 6 feet tall and weighed over 200 pounds, making him too large to fit through the panel chiseled away on the back door, came in and attacked them. Charles Cortamiglia vehemently denied his wife's claims, yet police nonetheless arrested the Giordanos and charged them both with murder. The men would later be found guilty. Frank was sentenced to hang, and his father to life in prison. Charles divorced his wife after the trial.
So she blamed the neighbors, right?
Yeah, because if you hate your neighbors, that's one way to get the fuck rid of them.
I actually want to do an episode on that where we talk about fucking crazy neighbors. But what if it is a tag team? Because you guys got to remember there was a white man in the first 2 murders, and then it was a black man in the rest of the neighbors, or rest of the murders, and literally the back panel was chiseled off, which I don't know how you didn't hear that shit. And maybe the old man slipped through the door and the son did the killing, but remember, a lot of them, especially with the axe, did go all the way through, which means that he didn't have enough force to go all the way up and come down. So maybe, just maybe, it was both of them.
And almost a year later, Rosie admitted that she falsely accused the Giordanos out of jealousy and spite, resulting in their release. Yeah, real dick move, Rosie. Now, what happens next in the story is not only weird, but to me, it is incredibly suspicious. One of the theories supporting the notion that Frank Doc Mumphrey was behind all of this, or at least took advantage of the situation, is that his struggling jazz business suddenly started doing incredibly well after a threatening letter, supposedly from the Axeman himself, was sent in and published in newspapers, saying that he would kill anyone who was not playing jazz music in a few days' time when he passed through the city. Let's take a look at this letter. Quote, "From hell." It's fucking lame. March 13th,
I agree with that, dude. It is fucking lame.
1919. Dear esteemed mortal, they have never caught me and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orlanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to only amuse me, but His Satanic Majesty, Francis Joseph. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel sure that the police will always dodge me, as they have in the past. They are wise, and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly,
smug.
you Orlanians
Huh?
He's a little too smug.
He
That
is.
brings me out as the type of man who either he's very controlling to his family, probably maybe abusive to his wife and children, right?
Yeah.
Because he's that smug guy at work. You know, the one that you fucking hate because they're a giant prick all the goddamn time.
They're Mr. Know-It-Alls.
Yeah.
Just think of me as the most horrible.
Or they're that motherfucker who thinks they're better than everybody else. Well, actually, that goes with the first one. Or they're the ones that are sitting in their basement who, yeah.
Not their basement, their mama's fucking basement.
Murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a
And
visit to
think
your
the
city every
world is
night.
scum.
Yeah, they're basically scum.
At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in close relationship with the Angel of Death. Now to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fantasy. Signed,
That
the
shit is
Axeman.
all about control.
That shit is like fucking the Riddler. You remember how in Batman the Riddler would constantly fucking be like, oh, this bitch, you know, fucking sending shit about riddles and they'd have to figure it out. That's what this shit is. That is how they came up with the Riddler, I swear to God.
But it's all about control. He wants to feel like he has the control, the power.
Right,
It
which
goes
means
with his smugness.
right, which means that he has no control in his job, he has no control in his life, and this is the only way he can feel like he has control.
Now, there is two ways to deal with a person like that. You can either talk them down.
Or you can murder him with an axe.
You know that you sympathize with them or whatever, try to figure out, you know, what their problem is. Or you can just straight out fucking insult their asses.
Right.
Make them feel like less than a man than they already are. Then they might actually try to attack you, though. So,
right.
Number 2 is with caution.
Yeah, pretty cringe. But what wasn't cringe
Know
at
how
least
to fight first.
Exactly.
was that there were no murders that night, and all of the city's dance halls were filled to capacity, and professional and amateur bands played jazz at parties at hundreds of houses across town. Many of them playing a new composition by the well-known local composer Joseph de Villa called The Mysterious Axeman's Jazz. But I guess people stopped jazzing it out on August 10th, 1919, because grocer Steve Boker was attacked as he slept in his bedroom by an axe-wielding intruder. Boker woke up during the night to find a dark figure looming over his bed. Upon regaining consciousness, Boker...
Again, this is at a point in time where, like, fucking electricity is barely alive. They have fucking candles to fucking light their shit. They're not gonna fucking know who's standing above their bed.
ran to the street to investigate the intrusion, and he found that his head had been cracked open. He then ran to the home of his neighbor, Frank Janissa, where he finally lost consciousness and collapsed. Once again, nothing was stolen from the home, and a panel on the back door had been chiseled away. Boker would recover from his injuries, but would never be able to remember any details of the attack. Then on the night of September 3rd, 1919, Sarah Laumann was attacked in her apartment, the second victim, who was neither Italian nor a grocer. After hearing the screams, neighbors came to check on the young woman, who lived alone, and they broke into her home when Laumann didn't answer the door. They discovered that the 19-year-old was lying unconscious on her bed, suffering from a severe head injury.
Okay, so how did they not see somebody fucking go out? If I'm hearing my fucking neighbor scream, I'm gonna fucking pay attention to all exit points. Like
if I'm hearing my neighbor scream, man, I'm awake with the goddamn baseball bat. What the fuck you talking about?
Right? Fucking, there's gonna be a pew pew and a fucking dead intruder. That's what's gonna happen.
And missing several teeth. It was noted that the attacker came in through the window and not the back door of Laumann's house, leading some to believe that this was not the work of the real Axeman, but perhaps a copycat. But let's be real for a second. If the window's open, why bother chisel out a door panel? But even though it seemed out of his MO, a bloody axe was discovered on the front lawn of the building. Laumann would also recover from her injuries.
Did they also say that this was an apartment building?
I believe so.
But yeah, if the fucking window's open, you're not gonna fucking chisel out the goddamn fucking panel. Because one, you're in an apartment building. Somebody's gonna fucking hear you pounding. Second of all, fucking, why do all the work when you can just crawl through a window?
And also would not be able to recall any details from the attack. And now we go on to the
Or
final
take the
canonical victim,
Candyman
whose
route
father,
about it.
you might remember
What was that?
Or take the Candyman route about it. So in that movie, the mirrors
Yeah.
have like a back thing to them, and I'm pretty sure ours probably does too. But PHA is a little bit better about it. Where the apartments are connected by the hole in the wall where they put the mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
from the beginning of the video for turning his attacker into a block of Swiss cheese by blasting him with a shotgun. Peter Pepitone's own son Michael, who followed in his father's footsteps of becoming a grocer as well. On the night of October 27th, 1919, Mike Pepitone's wife, known as Esther, was woken up by a noise and went to investigate. According to her official statements at the time, she got to the door of her husband's bedroom just as a large axe-wielding man was fleeing the scene. Mike Pepitone had been struck in the head and was covered in his own blood. Blood spatters covered the majority of the room, including a painting of the Virgin Mary. Esther was unable to describe any more characteristics of the killer other than large, and so Mike Pepitone's murder marked the end of the alleged Axeman attacks. As to what happens next, it's pretty tough to say for sure, but this is what I've been able to piece together. According to some researchers, after Mike Pepitone's murder, Esther is believed to get remarried to Angelo Albano. Yeah, the very same Angelo Albano who was reportedly in business with Joseph Monfrey, and she and Angelo moved out to Los Angeles. Then around October 1921, Angelo Albano suddenly disappears, and then 2 months later, on December 5th, 1921, Joseph Monfrey is shot to death by Esther Albano. And if we check Frank Doc Monfrey's obituary, he also died on the exact same day of December 5th, 1921, and he is described as a murder victim in an unsolved case. So the million-dollar question is, did this really happen? Is there any other circumstantial evidence suggesting that Frank Doc Monfrey is Joseph Monfrey? And is there anything to suggest that Frank Doc Monfrey moved down to LA in 1919? While some researchers claimed no evidence of a Monfrey being shot to death by an Esther Albano exists in either public or police records, according to Richard Warner, an author and researcher who wrote a very long article in a privately published journal devoted to mafia history, claims that the police's chief suspect was not really known as Monfrey or even Mumphrey, but known as Joseph Manfrey. Esther was also apparently going by the name of Pasca at this point, so in Warner's opinion, this may explain why it's kinda difficult to find any reference to a man named Monfrey or a woman named Esther in Los Angeles newspapers at around about this time. However, this Joseph Manfrey really did indeed relocate from New Orleans to LA around 1919, exactly around the time the Axeman murders ended, and wouldn't you believe it, this man was known by another alias, the one and only Frank Doc Monfrey. So historical records show that this Joseph Manfrey and his daughter moved to Los Angeles in 1919, and they started and operated a small drugstore in San Bernardino on 24th Street, while Angelo Albano moved to 36th Street, and you guys aren't gonna believe it, but he opened a grocery. Reportedly, Joseph and Angelo also started and ran a real estate business together, but Angelo didn't like Manfrey's way of doing business, and he bought out Manfrey's share. Then one day in October 1921, Manfrey paid a visit to Angelo, and he was never seen again. Esther suspected that Manfrey killed Angelo, and she told the LAPD. However, they did what the LAPD do best in those days, and they didn't do a goddamn thing. And then 2 months later, on December 5th, 1921, Manfrey arrogantly came to Esther's house to confront her and demand money. When he attempted to assault her, she reached for a gun, and she shot him in the head, chest, and abdomen a total of 11 times, and Manfrey died instantly. After she killed Manfrey, she was arrested and taken in by the police. And this is where things start to get real.
So, do you think if that she
This
married...
is where shit's starting to get weird? This is where you draw that line? Really? Really, motherfucker?
Right? Now, do you think that he killed the fucking... She killed the Axeman? Or do you think she married the Axeman?
I don't know.
Or was she the Axeman? Because think about it, a panel on a door is very thick, okay?
Ye-
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it depends, but okay.
I don't have one present, but, well, I do, but a panel on the door is normally about this fucking thin, right? A man normally ain't gonna fit through this. Unless they go sideways and then they crawl through and it, right? But a woman would fit through it. All right, let's see who the killer is.
Really strange. Esther explained her connection to Angelo Albano, telling authorities that she was previously married to a grocer by the name of Michael Pepitone in New Orleans, and in January 1921, Esther went to LA to attend her niece's wedding and apparently met Angelo Albano there. Angelo Albano had been previously married to her sister, but she had since passed away, and 4 months after meeting Esther, Angelo proposed to her, and they would eventually get married on September 12, 1921. However, after examining both Esther's marriage license and certificate, as well as her niece's, they would both reveal an entirely different truth. Esther's niece, Rose Albano, who was 17 at the time of her wedding, married a guy named Frank Cusimano, and she did not get married in January. She actually got married on September 7, 1921, and Esther Pepitone married Angelo Albano using the name Pasca Pepitone on September 2nd,
Yeah, but you
1921.
know how
So she married
easy
Angelo
it was
almost a
back
week
then
before her
to
niece's wedding. So the first question that comes to mind is why
Huh?
I was saying, you know how easy it was back then to move, change your whole identity, start fresh?
Right, but you don't fucking end up like fucking marrying a dude a week before you marry somebody else.
Yeah, no, that's weird.
So, you were looking up Philadelphia killers.
Uh-huh.
Did you find anything?
I found 3, and that was literally around the same fucking time. 2 of them have like very close fucking stories, and what the fuck you call them? Not alibis. Signatures.
Okay, so who did you what 3 are they?
Okay, hold on. I gotta go to my history for this. Ugh, the zombie's just sitting there staring at me. It was, well, the first one they never solved, so he doesn't have a name. It's the Frankfurt slasher.
Oh yeah, I was looking that shit up. Hold on. I actually have information on it.
Gary Hendrick, and the Corpse Collector. Now, the Corpse Collector one, they did his ass dirty.
You want to look up you want to learn about the Corpse Collector?
I have a video, The Mystery Abyss.
Alright, share it up. Just remember that we do have to fucking pause the shit and talk about it.
Okay, give me a second here.
If you want to just drop me the link, I can share it real quick.
Give me a second. Oh, it's not gonna. Oh.
But yeah, I thought that the fucking New Orleans killer was actually pretty interesting because, like,
It's in the back chat.
alright,
That's the one for the first one.
which group chat? Because I've not seen it.
The back chat.
Oh, the back chat. Alright, got it.
And then the other 2, I'm putting it back there now.
Alright, so I thought you were throwing it up on there. But yeah, I thought the New Orleans killer was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of theories about him.
The corpse collector. All right, this is the corpse collector. Let's see what's going on with this one. What's up, Gemma? Good morning. How are you, sweetheart? If you could, do you mind sharing this out? We are doing serial killers that basically cunning criminals that got away with it and more.
August 9th, 1987. A dense heat fills the air of Philadelphia, a storm on the verge of breaking. Harrison Graham, a mentally impaired 28-year-old, known to local children as the eccentric man who carries a Cookie Monster puppet around with him everywhere he goes, holding conversations with it using a creepy impersonation of the character's distinct voice, is evicted from his small apartment in a dilapidated row house. After neighbors complained of the horrific smell coming from his apartment, Harrison had refused his landlord
Congratulations on the 5,800. I am so proud of you. You worked very hard for that.
access to find out what was going on, resulting in his eviction. As his landlord's son and nephew arrive to carry out the eviction, Harrison nails a door shut in the apartment, before fleeing down the fire escape with a handful of clothes, a bottle of water, and his beloved Cookie Monster puppet. Unable to enter the apartment to find out what was causing the unbearable smell.
Thank you, Gemma. So homie fucking has a puppet collector?
No, he's disabled. You're gonna hear about it later on down the road, but yeah, he's
Well, they
disabled.
said he was disabled. You're welcome, sweetheart. Alright, I can't watch the flashy, so you're gonna have to tell me when the flashy's over.
The police are contacted to break the door down and investigate. Local police were already on high alert, having recently discovered and arrested a brutal serial killer, Gary Heidnik, living only a few miles away from the address. Simultaneously, the investigation into the brutal and unsolved case of the Frankfurt Slasher, a serial killer who had been hunting in the exact same area of Philadelphia, was in full swing, which you can learn more about in my deep dive into the case linked below. I highly recommend watching that video first if you haven't done yet, as it will provide some interesting context and background that will add a lot to this video. Harrison had previously been seen digging graves he claimed were for dogs, and was known to hang around with drug dealers and users. But despite this, and despite his weird and eccentric ways, no one suspected he was harboring the dark and twisted secret that he was. Because Harrison was a serial killer.
So there is a link that just popped up of this in a deeper dive.
And the smell his neighbors had complained about was actually coming from the many rotten corpses hidden in his apartment. This is the shocking story of Officer Pete Scalatino was well acquainted with the neighborhood where Harrison lived, a neighborhood of tenements that were mostly boarded up, abandoned, and in total disrepair. While it might not have looked like the sort of place anyone would live, this desolate neighborhood was home to those on—
Wait, I got a question for you. Since how you live in Philly.
I am not that far from Frankfurt. No, I am not.
Is it still boarded up?
I do not know because I do not go to Frankfurt.
Why?
Because I usually don't leave my given area. If I go to South Philly, it's only because I need something down there. I live in North Philly, so most of the places I go is North Philly. I live near Kensington Avenue, but I don't go up there.
I don't fucking blame you.
on the fringes of society.
The one time I went up there, it was bad. It was so bad.
So is that like the fucking So like you have your cities and then you have the outer part of the cities, which is like
Oh no, each district has a name. So there's Bishtown, there's Frankfurt, there's Kensington. These are all in their center city. These are all inside Philadelphia.
So Philadelphia has a bunch of different names inside of Philadelphia. I think Houston's the same exact way.
Yeah. So we have like each part of the city is named. You got Francisville.
So
Frank could probably explain it better because he's lived there all his life.
So, question. How much would it take you to go on a walk up there, video record it, and come back? Like, show it on live stream one night.
I'm letting you know now, most likely those buildings do not exist anymore.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, Philly has been gentrified recently a fucking lot. Okay, it's even almost coming up. We thought this bitch was never gonna come to my area. Or not for a long fucking time. It has hit us. It has
Okay.
fucking hit.
Okay. All right.
And yet we still can't have a fucking Dollar General because people keep stealing from the
Get her on to Philadelphia. You're gonna hear her rant. All right, let's watch this a little bit.
Addicts, the homeless, the desperate. Police were frequently called to the area to deal with drug dealers, pimps, and cases of domestic violence. Arriving at 1631 North 19th Street, Officer Scalatino found the front door to the building was broken open and covered in rubble, with windows shattered throughout the hallways inside. Making his way up to the third floor, he was instantly struck by the unmistakable stench of death, exacerbated by the
By the way, that's a water gun the police officer is holding.
hot and humid weather. It was a smell he was all too familiar with, and he had no doubt he was about to find a body. With no working electricity and most of the windows boarded up, Officer Scalatino struggled to see what he was looking at as he approached Harrison's dark apartment.
Didn't they have fucking flashlights?
Yes.
This is the 1980. Bitch, I
There's
know
no-
flashlights was around at that point in time.
Yep, and they're supposed to hold it in their non-gun hand.
Right. So why is
That way,
homie?
if they
Why
still
is
need to. That way, if they still need to reach for their guns, they can.
why are they walking around freaking with holding a flashlight? That makes no sense to me.
Apartment at the end of the hallway. As he entered, he was shocked to find waist-high piles of trash in the
It
darkness,
also
with food
depends on
containers.
how young they are.
True.
I mean, there's some stuff that either, they're rookies, they don't fucking know any better, or they're older and they're stuck in their ways and they're probably just too fucking lazy, or they didn't think of it.
Right. Look at all that garbage in there. Holy shit.
Rotting newspapers,
Oh,
and piles of dirty
worse.
clothes and dried feces scattered throughout the room. On the wall, a disturbing drawing of a naked woman was defaced with crude, abusive language, smeared with what appeared to be dried blood. Approaching the room that had been boarded shut, Officer Scalatino was sure the cause of the foul odor lay behind it. The name Marty was carved into the door, with an open keyhole beneath it.
Wait. That said Marty? I didn't know M had 3 fucking humps. I thought M had 2.
No, N has 2.
No, it does not. And N goes like this. And M goes like this. That is not an M. An M goes up, down.
No, it's
up,
the way they
down.
fucking spray paint. It's the way they spray paint it. Also, I mean, not everybody has their own fucking style, of course, but
That
Philadelphia
almost looks like Warty, not Marty.
Philadelphia even has their own style of like graffiti and shit.
Right.
The name Marty was carved into the door, with an open keyhole beneath it. Scalatino tried and failed to open it, causing him to kneel down and peer into the keyhole. Through the opening, he saw what looked to be the legs of a black woman, lying unnaturally still. Was she the source of the stench? After knocking and trying to get her attention with no response, Scalatino called for backup and was quickly joined by Charles Johnson, an investigator with the medical examiner's office. Together, Officer Scalatino and Investigator Johnson forced open the door, breaking through the nailed boards. As soon as it swung open, they were struck by such a strong and overpowering smell that they struggled not to instantly vomit. Like the rest of the apartment, the room was completely covered.
Hey, Proppy. Okay.
Hi, Poppy.
This is one thing I can say that I've learned about this. Okay. When there has been a dead body for a very long time, it smells of high heaven. And they have to like put this like mint shit under their nose or otherwise they gag.
Covered with trash.
Actually, it's vapor rub.
Vapor rub is the same shit as mint shit because vapor is mint.
Oh, well, trust me, I just learned that shit the other day.
Yeah.
lying on a mattress
We'll discuss that after this video.
on the floor, now fully visible. There was no doubt that the woman seen through the keyhole was dead. She was bloated and discolored from decomposition, with her limbs twisted and contorted. Next to the mattress, there lied another bloated female body on top of a pile of trash, dressed in a miniskirt.
Wait, so if they're bloated, that means... Okay, so like, it takes about 3 to 5 days for a human body to bloat. Just so everybody knows this.
And a shirt with the word
Depending on temperature.
Okay, but they said it's Philadelphia hot and there was no AC.
Okay, then yeah,
It
more
takes
like
about 3
2
to
to
5.
3 days.
Yeah.
2 to
Portois
3.
and a
Yeah, right about that.
red rose on it. Officer Scalatino quickly set up yellow crime scene tape around the apartment and in the hallway as he called for backup, unsure exactly what he'd just discovered. Because drug overdoses were extremely common in the area, he knew it was possible that the two women had simply died and been left to decay. But something about the whole situation led him to believe this wasn't just another overdose case, that this wasn't just another decrepit drug den. He suspected he had stumbled upon something much, much worse. And unfortunately,
Nice way
his
to
instincts
put
were
it,
about to be
asshole.
proven right. Detective James Hansen, who had just wrapped up the Heidnik investigation, was sent to the scene to see what he made of it. Donning masks to protect themselves from the overwhelming filth, by 3:45 p.m., the detective and his team had discovered the remains of a third woman. Having been wrapped inside 2 sheets and buried beneath the trash under the second body, this woman was practically skeletal, with only a few fragments of her clothing left to potentially help identify her. The state of her remains strongly suggested that the grim happenings at 1631 North Street had been ongoing for quite some time.
I wonder how many bodies they found in there.
Wait, what'd they say?
Give me a second.
Was that north or north?
The detective and his team had discovered the remains of a third woman. Having been wrapped inside 2 sheets and buried beneath the trash under the second body, this woman was practically skeletal, with only a few fragments of her clothing left to potentially help identify her. The state of her remains strongly suggested that the grim happenings at 1631 North Street had been ongoing for quite
1631 North Street.
North or north?
North. Like the direction north.
Hold on. Remember those numbers. Where is it? You said
1631 North Street.
skeletal, with only a few fragments of her clothing left to potentially help identify her. The state of her remains strongly suggested that the grim happenings at 1631 North Street had been ongoing for
Yeah, 1631 North Street.
Okay. So good news and bad news.
That's way close to your fucking house.
I don't know. I didn't even check that yet. I didn't even check that shit yet. Let's see. I live. That's Ridge right there. So I live up this way somewhere. Oh, that's going way too far.
All right, while you figure that out, I'm going to play this.
quite some time. Needing space to move and photograph the 3 bodies, the team had no choice but to start clearing the mess, and were forced to start chucking furniture, clothing, and garbage out of the window. Less than 2 hours later, a 4th set of mummified remains was
What? I don't know. Still alive.
discovered, wrapped in sheets and buried beneath the rotten trash. Detective Hansen was quoted saying, "This is the first time, to my knowledge, that we found 4 bodies of suspicious death in the same house." It seemed to the detective that one room had been used by Harrison to live in, and the other room had been turned into some sort of private mausoleum. With 4 bodies now discovered in the small, cluttered apartment, and no doubts that this was not a simple overdose case, more officers, including the medical examiner Robert L. Catherman himself, were called in to help with the investigation. As thunder rumbled outside from the breaking storm, more lighting was brought in to allow the forensic team to sift through the endless piles of trash for any clues or evidence. By 5:30 p.m., a 5th body was discovered wedged between the 2 mattresses on the bed, where
So they initially found one that, and that turned into 3 young ladies laying on the floor. Then they found the man. Now they found another body.
Oh, they're gonna find a lot of bodies.
Where it had clearly been for a long time, having decomposed to the point where gender could no longer be determined. It appeared as though
Gender can be determined at any point in decomposition based on the hips. Because women have a bigger.
Probably not at that time.
True. Well, no, this is 1980. This is the 80s. They could determine gender.
Harrison had been sleeping on the top mattress, with this decomposed corpse directly beneath him, like a dried flower pressed between the pages of a book. As more and more muck and debris was cleared, an officer called out after discovering a 6th body crammed into a tiny 6-inch deep closet, wrapped in a sheet and bound with white electrical cord, buried beneath garbage and tattered clothing. Eventually, with the sun gone and rain falling, the already
not that far.
How far away from it you are?
It's down near Easton State Penitentiary.
All right.
So it's not that far because we've gone that far before, but it is 1.4 miles away from me.
That's like my walk to Walmart.
Yeah.
difficult.
That's too fucking close.
Search had become even more uncomfortable, and with 6 bodies found, the operation was suspended until morning. Despite the rain, rumors of the discovery of the bodies spread through the neighborhood, leading local residents and reporters to gather outside and watch as body bag after body bag was carried out of the building by officers wearing masks. With the bodies taken to the morgue to be properly examined,
the reason I said that was I've walked by this building before.
So it was still up the last time you walked by it.
I mean, I don't think this is the same exact building.
But
I don't
close
think
to
it's
fucking enough.
Yeah, like it's close enough.
Dude, one day you should go do a SBS Cyberbox session near it. We'll do it live. Alright, I'm trying to pull
up the picture, but it's not letting me. But that's the building.
Yeah, it looks like it's in shambles. Hold on, let's make you big real quick. Yeah, that looks like either they redid the whole building or they made a new one.
They redid the whole building.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Alright.
It seemed clear to the detectives that they had just stumbled across the graveyard of yet another serial killer. Despite living so close to Heidnik, it seemed unlikely that Harrison had anything to do with his similar murder spree. Yet investigators couldn't help but wonder if they'd just found the home of the Frankfurt slasher. When the search resumed at dawn the next day, it expanded to outside the apartment, and it didn't take long for a 7th victim to be discovered. Unlike the other bodies, this one was found dismembered on the roof of the building, inside a decaying canvas bag hidden beneath a stained mattress. There was no head or torso with the remains, with locals telling them that Harrison had been seen digging in the backyard and on vacant lots across the street on numerous occasions. The team began preparing to dig in the hopes of locating more bodies. A photo of Harrison was printed in the local newspapers that morning, while patrol officers hit the streets in search of information. The manhunt for this disturbed serial killer had begun. A warrant for Harrison's arrest was quickly issued. Because detectives were yet to determine the cause of death of the decomposed bodies in his apartment, they charged him with multiple accounts of abusing a corpse. At the very least, they knew for a fact that Harrison had been living with the dead bodies in his apartment. Harrison, who liked to go by the name that had been found on the door to his tomb of horrors, Marty, had been living in the rundown building for more than 4 years, and was a familiar face in the neighborhood. In part due to his role as a handyman, with many reporting that he often seemed quiet and friendly. However, they also learned that he had a reputation for dealing drugs, and that his apartment was a known drug den where users went to shoot up. Speaking to one of his neighbors,
So, basically, he used his house as a drug den so that way he could get fucking crackheads and meth heads and people who like to snort sugar booger fucking high and then do unspeakable things to him. Wasn't there another?
Oh, it gets weirder.
I know, but once again, we have to talk about it every so often, or otherwise,
No, I know that. I'm just saying, oh, it gets weirder.
Oh, great.
But he's a case where I think the system
Failed
at
them?
first, yeah, did him wrong. It definitely did him fucking wrong.
Well,
But
when you're on drugs, it's hard for the system to fucking help you if you do not help yourself with this shit.
no, it wasn't even that, sweetie. He did not fucking understand. He did not
Oh.
have the understanding, and he may seem like he has some of the understanding, but mostly everybody could see he did not have the fucking understanding.
Okay. Yeah.
They discovered that Harrison kept notebooks filled with crude drawings of naked women and dismembered body parts, including breasts, feet, heads, and male genitalia. The same neighbor even told them that they had once witnessed Harrison dangling a woman out of his window, causing her to scream before he quickly pulled her back inside. The detectives discovered that Harrison was known to frequent a few specific areas where he had friends and family, so assumed he may have fled to one of these locations. But their searches failed to find any sign of his presence. Police did manage to locate his mother, Lillian Graham Jeter, who was only 45, meaning that she had given birth to 28-year-old Harrison when she was just 17 years old. He was the oldest of 5 children. According to Lillian, she had had no choice but to kick him out of her home in 1979 due to his heavy drug use. However, she did share one important detail with them. A few months earlier, Harrison had told her that his girlfriend, Mary, was pregnant, before informing her that the baby had died sometime before July 4th when she saw him. She also informed them that he was classified as learning disabled, and that he had been diagnosed with a mental disorder at 12, leading to him being hospitalized for 2 years, and that he had spent time in foster care. Investigators were never able to confirm.
Okay, so they say he had a learning disability, and then they had to be hospitalized.
He has the fucking IQ of like barely 63.
So he's MR, which would explain
Yeah.
the drawings of the female body and male body, because that's how he understands it. And for anybody that's just popping in and joining, we are learning about the corpse collector, which was in Philadelphia.
Whether he had actually received an official diagnosis like she claimed. It became apparent that his developmental issues had made it difficult for him to form meaningful relationships in his youth, and by the time he reached adulthood, Harrison had developed a nasty crack cocaine addiction, which only exacerbated his troubles. After leaving his mother's house, he began drinking heavily and associating with pimps, sex workers, and drug dealers in the rough neighborhood he moved to. During this time,
That's what I was going to say, that with them having women, like, there being so many women and him having a drug den, that almost sounds like a place for pimps and prostitutes to fucking go to.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have no offense, but if his IQ is as low as they're saying it is, and he does not have that understanding, that's the perfect place for him to get taken advantage of.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Or for them to teach him the wrong type of lessons.
Right, which once his mother found out that he was on drugs, she should have kicked him out. She should have put him in rehab and got him in assisted living.
Acquired his prized possession, a Cookie Monster doll, which he became deeply attached to and took with him everywhere he went. Locals informed them that Harrison was often seen taking long walks with the puppet, which he would use to entertain neighborhood kids. While some saw this as harmless, others told the police that he seemed
creepy and yet kind of sad.
Okay.
Crazy, especially when he drank and could be seen doing things like dancing in the streets or talking to his puppet alone. While none of these neighbors reported seeing Harrison engage in
He has like hollow eyes, like nobody is fucking there.
No, I've seen people with them type of eyes. Those are the eyes.
Right, his name is Jeffrey Dahmer.
He has no, like, doesn't really have worries.
Right, because there's nothing there to worry about.
Yeah.
any violent behavior, and he had no criminal record, It wouldn't be long before a number of women would emerge claiming that he had physically attacked and sexually assaulted them. In the morgue, the medical examiner's team began trying to identify the victims and to determine their causes of death. DNA science was still in its infancy at the time and was not commonly used to identify victims yet. The first two victims, both black women, appeared to have only been dead for a couple of days, with the intense summer heat causing them to rapidly decompose. Both were likely in their late 20s or early 30s, and neither initially showed any obvious signs of violence or trauma. The other bodies were in such bad states that their race and sex couldn't even be identified. As a result, an anthropologist was called to help analyze their bone structures. Eventually, they were able to confirm that 2 more of the bodies belonged to black women in their 20s, and that the remains found on the roof also belonged to a woman. Despite initially struggling to find a cause of death, a broken hyoid bone on the 4th victim was eventually discovered, implying that they had been strangled, and by August 11th, it was confirmed that the 2 most recent victims had also been strangled to death. Their times of death were also extended to have been sometime in the past 10 days. With at least 3 victims confirmed to have been murdered, there was now no doubt in anyone's mind that they were dealing with a serial killer.
5 people is a serial killer, but of course they pulled 6 bodies out of his 6 or more bodies out of the apartment complex. But
7. They tried to say it was 8, but turns out one of the body parts actually belongs to one of the cut up victims.
okay, so they pulled 7 bodies out. That means that he, especially with him strangling them and him having a low IQ, he had to learn that somehow. That's not something that is taught, just fucking boom in their head. Like
later on, he tries to claim that he has multiple personalities.
Hey, no spoilers. I haven't seen this.
But that, I'm giving you a clue that has something to do with what you're saying.
Okay.
And that they needed to find Harrison quickly before he had the chance to hurt anyone else. The media reports about a madman on the loose kept the public engaged. After hearing about the discovery of the bodies on the news, a woman came forward stating that she believed her roommate Sandra Garvin, who had been missing for several months, might have been one of the victims. She had gone to buy drugs from Harrison, but had never returned. Before long, police learned the identities of 3 more women who were all known to have connections to Harrison and were all missing. 2 of these women were ultimately found alive, and as a result, they were removed from the list of potential victims and placed on the list of potential witnesses, with one of them having lived with Harrison without incident. Another neighbor reported to the police that she had witnessed Harrison beating a woman called Robin Deschazor, leading them to suspect that she could be one of the victims. Meanwhile, the husband of Mary Jeter Mathis contacted the police, recognizing the shirt found with the second body as one he had purchased for his wife. While tips on potential
But how can you okay, so a lot of people can recognize the same fucking shirt. Shirts are multi fucking process.
No, sweetie. I really don't want to spoil that one for you, but
all right, I'll keep listening.
Identities of the victims were
the shirt.
He bought her the shirt. All right.
pouring in. So were sightings of Harrison, thanks to his photo being shown on the news. On August 11th, there were sightings of him on Broad Street, riding a SEPTA bus, at a soup kitchen, and at a car wash. Although these sightings were all deemed credible, police failed to arrive in time to make an arrest at any of the locations. Another witness claimed to see Harrison getting a meal at the Cathedral of Deliverance Evangelistic Church, describing him as looking vacant and glassy-eyed. In this instance, police arrived at the scene moments after the sighting, confirming his identity with the picture to witnesses, yet once again he managed to evade them. Simultaneously, the building on North 19th Street where Harrison had lived was condemned due to multiple code violations, leading to all of the...
He keeps evading because he goes through different doors and shit.
I don't think he's evading. I think they just are missing him.
Fucking true.
Remaining tenants being forced to vacate.
Some Looney Tunes shit where you're trying to run after this person. They're not even acknowledging your presence, but you are chasing as fast as you can after them, and you just
paint a black hole and automatically slip through.
Yeah, like cops in fucking old cartoons.
Right?
It's slightly easier for the crime scene investigators, who were busy sifting through the
just here.
Yeah.
Piles of trash and debris inside Harrison's apartment, to continue their search for evidence. Among the mess, they discovered 2 earrings near the mummified remains of the 3rd victim, and a ring and 3rd earring alongside one of the other bodies, both of which had distinctive designs. Police released details of the finds, hoping somebody might recognize them as belonging to somebody. In the hopes of helping confirm the identities of the victims, forensic dentist Haskell Askin was called in. Of the 6 complete sets of remains discovered, 5 of them had undergone some form of dental work, so Askin put out a plea to the public for anyone who feared their loved one may be among the victims to provide him with dental records for comparison. Meanwhile, investigators continued their search of the condemned building and its surroundings. The officers digging up the garden discovered more bones buried where Harrison had previously been seen digging. However, just as he had claimed, they turned out to belong to dogs. Struggling to locate Harrison, his mother and siblings issued a public plea for him to surrender himself to the police, though they did not believe he was responsible for the deaths. One of his younger brothers claimed he was so afraid of bodies he couldn't even attend their grandmother's funeral, so there was no way he could have been living and sleeping in a room with corpses. Then, 6 days after the initial discovery on August 15th, another chilling find was made. In the basement of a building a couple of doors down from Harrison's apartment, a human torso and skull were discovered wrapped in a brown blanket and tied with electrical cord. Given it clearly mirrored how the other bodies had been stored in Harrison's apartment, it was assumed this was yet another victim of his. However, these remains were found partially covered by a pile of coal ashes, suggesting that other remains had been burnt and left there too. Were they?
No, I have a question about that one. They said that he couldn't stand dead bodies and that's why he couldn't go to his grandma's funeral. They stated that if
Makes
that's true,
makes a better argument for that multiple personalities, don't it?
but what if that's why they were wrapped and put in, like, tied, because he couldn't stand seeing them? So he had to wrap them up so that way they wouldn't do that.
True.
Also,
but he
they
was
said,
afraid to even be in the room with them.
right, which would make that one difficult, sleeping on top of them. But what if after a while he just brought them down and burnt them, because they said that they found another body on top of fucking basically coal and ashes. So who's to say how many more dead bodies were in the burnt pile?
Oh, because he admits everything at the end.
Spoiler.
They from the same victim, or did they belong to someone else entirely?
Just kidding. You know I love you.
The 7th victim discovered on the roof was missing these specific body parts, so it was also unclear if the remains belonged to the same person or an 8th, new victim. By the time these remains had been discovered, the medical examiner's office had been able to confirm that 6 of the victims were black women, and had formally identified 36-year-old mother of 5 Mary Jeter Mathis, whose husband had recognized her clothing, as one of them. Then, 2 days later on August 17th, Harrison's mother Lillian received a call from her son that would change everything. Harrison, tired and hungry, asked if she could bring him some food, explaining that he wanted to meet with her. As they spoke, Lillian remarked, "Stop running, son. Whatever happened, we can work this out. Just come on home. We love you. Your family loves you." Miraculously, her words seemed to have an effect on him. She arranged to meet him on a street corner a few blocks from his apartment, where officers Ed Spangler and Larry Brzezinski arrived to take him into custody. By evening, Harrison was charged with 7 counts of abuse of a corpse and 7 counts of murder. Initially, Harrison told Detective Hansen and the investigators questioning him that the bodies had been in the apartment when he moved in 4 years ago, and that he hadn't killed anyone, despite evidence showing that at least 2 of the victims had been killed less than 10 days before he was evicted. After hours of interrogation, however, with Detective Hansen pushing him relentlessly, Harrison's story changed. Initially, he admitted to having killed the 2 most recent victims. But by the next evening, he had changed his story and claimed that he had killed all 7 women, but that their deaths had occurred while he was high and having sex with them. Even more disturbingly, he claimed that while his hands had done the killing, he wasn't responsible. According to Harrison, it was Marty, a split personality he claimed was living inside of him. As he began opening up, he revealed that all of the victims had been killed that year, with the first murder occurring back in January. According to him, it just started happening, and once he had begun, he found that Marty was unable to stop. The first murder he described to them was of a former girlfriend, Robin Deschazor, with forensics confirming the remains on the roof and in the nearby basement belonging to her. He was quoted as saying, "She knew about Marty and his desires. I didn't want her looking at me that way, and I seen God being angry through her eyes." He admitted that after killing Robin, he was so shaken and terrified by what he had done that he left her body in his apartment. It wasn't until he brought another woman there that he tried to conceal the body by lifting it through the bedroom window onto the roof. He even claimed that he ended up telling a girlfriend about the body and even showed it to her. According to him, she threatened to report him to the police unless he got rid of it, resulting in him relocating her head and torso to the nearby building it was found in, leaving a handful of her remains in a hidden bag on the roof. According to Harrison, he lured all his victims, whether acquaintances or strangers, by offering them drugs. What began as consensual sex would always end in strangulation. Each time, Harrison said he was shocked when he woke up to find his victim dead beside him. Claiming to be remorseful for the crimes his split personality committed, He identified a number of the victims, and with the help of family members, 6 of the 7 victims were identified as Robin DeChazor, 29, Mary Jeter Mathis, 36, Sandra Garvin, 33, Cynthia Brooks, 27, Barbara Mahoney, 22, and Patricia Franklin, 24. Throughout the interrogation, Harrison sketched faces of his victims with surprising artistic skill. The detectives, who had
So he turned himself in. He admitted to all their crimes after lots of pushing. And he said that it was somebody that named Marty that lived in his head, which we all seen that it said Marty. What's up, Ghost Rider?
Hi, Ghost Rider.
We are literally learning about the corpse collector, and it's pretty awesome. And before this, we learned about the Axemen in New Orleans. We're almost done with this video.
expected the mentally disabled man to struggle to communicate, were actually surprised by just how talented and articulate he was. It even turned out he was not as illiterate as had been claimed and was an avid reader of the Bible. Ultimately, Harrison provided a 10-page confession letter that detailed every one of the murders. In it, he repeatedly insisted that the deaths were all accidents and that they had all died while being choked during sex. Despite Harrison having confessed to murdering 7 women, giving investigators in the ongoing Frankfurt slasher case reason to suspect his involvement, none of the victims had been stabbed or assaulted like those of the slasher. Furthermore, at the time, police were looking for a middle-aged white man in that case, not a relatively young, tall black man. So it didn't take long for them to view Harrison as a separate killer. Ironically, the same detectives would go on to accuse a different black man, Leonard Christopher, of being the slasher based on almost no evidence. Regardless, establishing Harrison as a different serial
Okay. So
see, those are all 3 of them were in Philly at this time in the 80s, all killing around the same goddamn area.
continue.
All killing in the same damn area, not even knowing each other. Although I think I thought for the longest time 1 and 2 were actually the same person, and it turns out no, they're not, because 1 kept killing while the other one was, I guess, in jail or in prison or some shit. But
Well,
yeah.
here's my thinking is
Accomplice, they work together.
well,
That's really rare for serial killers.
Not really, because you got to look at I-80. I-80 have multiple killers that, like,
Yeah.
proceeded to add to the bodies. But my thinking with this one is the corpse collector. He might have just been into rough sex, sorry to say. And things got out of hand, especially if he was special needs.
He is. They said that he has, I think they said he has an IQ around 63.
But if he had an IQ of, I'm a killer in my heart, but I'm in a wheelchair, it sucks. I don't think he'd be getting away with a lot of murders. But no, think about this.
But I do believe the multiple personality thing because of the way
He might have multiple personalities, but who's to say one is on the slow side and one is on the avid reader and fucking intelligent?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like,
it's possible.
It is possible. Because in order to be at like an IQ of 63, you can't read, you can barely write. And the homie wrote a fucking 8-page letter stating, I did it, here's how I did it, what happened, the whole 9 yards. Who's to say they were pushing him, and they were pushing him
they
because
were most definitely fucking pushing him.
Right.
Because if you heard up to the part where the court case was going, like, all signs pointed to this man did not understand what the fuck was happening in court. They kept on pushing him because he's special needs and because he did kill them women. Even though he was special needs, they kept on pushing, and he ended up in life in prison without
the possibility of parole.
Yeah, but also they put him on death row. But the warden felt bad for him. So he got them to bring it down so that he could do it, like get the death penalty at the end of his,
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah. Which is totally understandable. Now, what I was trying to say is people with multiple personalities or split personalities, a lot of times what it is they get bullied so much that they create another personality to protect them. So when they're creating this personality to protect them, it might be smarter. It might be a better reader. It might be a better writer because those are all the things that he got bullied for. There was a traumatic event that happened to him that caused him to have multiple personalities, and the one that had the killer side of him is the one that is smarter and faster, and his brain comprehends more than the one that is not, and being interrogated. Yeah. We just
Well,
watched a video on it.
back in those times, the thing of multiple personalities was still relatively not
It was
fully a thing yet.
right. But what I'm saying is, we're not back in those times. We're in this times right now.
Yeah, but
So
I'm saying in defense of, the defense.
right. But what I'm saying is, because they pushed him so fucking hard, he might have slipped back, and Marty came forward. And that's why Marty was able to read. That's why Marty was able to write. That's why Marty was able to draw every face detail in the whole 9 yards. Because
Oh no,
Marty
that was
remembers
straight
all
up
that shit.
him. That drawing shit, that's straight up him. His mom says he's been drawing since he was young.
Right. I know, Ghost Rider, I know what TV show you're talking about. Um, but it is very common for people who have had a bad childhood, or people who have had um traumatic experiences happening to them, to when they get pushed past the limit, they become a new personality. A defender comes forth, and that is where this guy came in. Marty came in because Marty was the protector. And the first one might have been an accident, but Marty got accustomed to feeling it, and he liked the feeling of murdering people, so he continued to slip through the cracks. Because if you think about it, when you're having intercourse or you're high on any drugs, you're not going to remember.
Hell, you got multiple personalities. Unless you know the technique, you're not gonna fucking remember that shit anyways.
Exactly.
It feels like being possessed. You don't know what the fuck the others are doing.
Exactly. So Marty had to have come through in that interrogation at some point in time in order for them to remember. But once again, can I be a serial killer now?
No.
Well, and that's the thing. They said that he couldn't even stand being in the presence of a dead body. Like, he couldn't even go to his grandma's funeral because he could not stand being in a dead body. And if he's slow-minded in the first fucking place, he's not going to fucking really notice dead bodies hitting around his fucking house. Which the house was in the condemnation part anyways. They were condemning those housings. to tear down and build new ones.
which we already proved they have.
Right. We already proved
Uh,
that they tore down them.
Yeah, we showed a picture of the place now.
So
You missed it.
so literally I think Marty came through on the interrogation. I also think Marty came through every time homeboy wanted to get laid or was on drugs and then got laid, whatever the choice may be.
And then there's a chance that the personality might be a little bit stronger because he is a little bit weaker.
Right. Because once again,
Hey, let me come out for a while so I can protect you.
exactly.
Hey, let me enjoy that high with you.
Ghost Rider, I love crime shows too, and that's why this is like my fucking forte. Like, I understand about criminal justice and how the mind process works with all this stuff. Dude, this is gonna irritate the fuck out of me. This shit ain't even.
Well, I believe the same thing with him that I believe with Nick Littlejohn with the whole Gypsy Rose thing. Now, I don't believe he should be out of prison, but I believe he should be out of prison.
Gypsy Rose manipulated that motherfucker like no tomorrow.
But listen, I believe that, yeah, he should be, damn it, out of prison. He shouldn't be in prison. But I also believe that he don't need to be out.
Right. He should be in a mental
facility.
Or a group home where, like, he has the ability, but he always has to have a worker with him.
Yeah.
Murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German really had me wondering at this point. I am still not sure. I will look those up. Matter of fact, I'm going to copy this comment just so that way I can add it to the docket team. If you didn't know, we had a docket team.
Ooh.
So that way I can look it up because I do like doing fucking criminal shows. Pure speculation. Yeah, it is speculation that he was manipulated. But it's also pure speculation that fucking Gypsy Rose didn't know that she could walk. It was pure speculation.
It's all speculation because the only people who know aren't speaking or is unable to speak.
Right. And I'm sorry to say, but if you're smart enough to fucking save up money, get a fucking cell phone so you can message your little boyfriend.
And the one person who can speak, I mean, come on.
She's fucked
they
up.
They can. I was gonna say they can control the narrative.
Right. I'm literally gonna have to go fucking get all the fucking evidence of where, like, Gypsy Rose has almost slipped up in interviews and said shit that she shouldn't have fucking said.
I might have a channel for that.
But I mean, if you think about it, I love the Criminal Mind because of the simple fact that they think so or out of the box, just like the New Orleans killer, which thank you, Mike, for those videos. It shows that there is a how do I want to put this? There is Frog, what is the light behind you? Keeps growing across the black sheet blinds. Oh, that's people out on the street. Whenever a car drives by, you see it. I don't have blackout curtains. I just have that. I know you just did not call me a... No. I said, Mike, thank you for those videos. And then I said, Frog, what is the light behind? I read the chat. I never, ever, 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 ever fucking called you that. And I never would. I don't know where you got that. But yeah, like the New Orleans killer, there's a lot of speculations on that one too.
They're all speculations. Until they catch the motherfucker, it's all speculation. And even then, it's still speculation because the only person telling the narrative can tell you anything the fuck they want.
Exactly.
Everybody lies and everybody's a suspect.
Amen to that. Which he actually gave me something on the Zodiac Killer, which is the next one I wanted to do.
A little too cynical.
Zodiac Killer sounds like an amazing one. But no, we're
No.
What?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
The Zodiac Killer is another one that literally had all of the speculations, but yet still never had substantial evidence to put somebody behind bars for it. And when they did finally get this substantial evidence, they ended up like totally not being able to process it because homie was already dead. You know?
Yeah.
You were there in California when they busted Trail's side killer? Ooh, that sounds like another good one. And if I know Mike, he's probably got all the documentation on that.
Oh.
Unless you, Mike, were you talking about when I said docket? A docket is literally just where we have all the information of which videos we want to fucking
Yeah, video ideas.
ideas and shit. And lately, we all know I like doing serial killers. She doesn't know a lot about serial killers, but it does come. She has more about Philadelphia serial killers, and I do fucking all over serial killers. So we work together because.
Hey, listen, okay? I did research when I moved here. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going somewhere I didn't know shit about it.
Amen to that. But yeah, like, honestly, at the end of the day, fucking, I am 100% interested in it. I may have that wrong. I am old, but I was in Felton. They busted somebody famous. Now I got to look it up. Well, you look it up. I don't know if you have X, but go ahead and message me on X. Look me up on X. And if you have Discord, my Discord's in the link. But it is way past that time. We normally only do an hour video, and we've done 2 hour videos, 2 hour live stream. So I'm gonna let everybody go. I hope you have fun watching about serial killers today. And I think tomorrow's gonna be about, I don't know, something. We'll think of something.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do like Friday serial unalivers. That way it's only once a week and it doesn't, you know.
Because it does take me some research. Although.
I threw this on her today.
Yes. Although. I'll just go into my history and save those videos. So that the next time we can watch the other 2. Because you didn't even finish that one.
Right. but I knew what time I was. I already got them saved into the docket team.
Okay.
So we will finish the one and then we will watch the other two next Friday. Tomorrow, I don't know what it's going to be. It could be Slippery Saturday where we fucking talk about wet things. You never know with us. You all have a good night. We're going to have a good night. We hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Ghost Rider. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. Also, next week, my hair goes rainbow colored. So, I'm going to have my son help me do it on live. Because I shaved the back of my head, I will reshave the back of my head, and then I will have my son do the bottom part and the side part red, and then it's going to be orange, green, blue, purple. So it's going to have 5 different colors. So stay tuned for that. Do you have anything interesting coming up, Angie?
Nope.
All right.
I'm still doing with my Sims. Oh, I did change my name and my picture, so we will no longer be Angie's Games. We will be Unicorn 420.
Right, which I will have linked down below in the description along with the videos that we watched today. I hope you all